So, what's your your earliest Chicago experience?
You mean being in Chicago?
Yeah.
First time I came to Chicago was with Don Cherry and his group Multiculti in 1990. And we played at the Cubby Bear over near Wrigley's Field. And I really had the feeling that we were playing in a music lover's town. And it was, people were loud. The place was loud. It's like a sports bar. I think there was even a game on in one room. But, people came to see Don and came to see us. And Hamid Drake was playing on drums. And he's from Chicago. So we got a lot of love. And it was great. It was a great first introduction to playing in Chicago.
Wow. So who would you say is your favorite Chicago musician?
That's really hard to say, but who's really been a big influence on me is Roscoe Mitchell. All of the AACM people, and especially the Art Ensemble of Chicago, who I met when I was a young teenager in the Bay Area when they opened for Charles Mingus at the Berkeley Community Theater. But Roscoe's way of organizing his music and the focus that he has, where he can play just 2 or 3 notes and manipulate them and constantly change them, change the timbre, make slight changes in the pitch. It kind of zeroes you into this little miniature world of sound, and it's really inspiring. He just continues to inspire me.
Is there something about like the Chicago sound, or what do you think it is about Chicago that makes it so unique?
Well, I think one thing is you feel like it's more connected to the South than the Bay Area is, and more than New York is. Something about the Midwest, it's got this feeling of, you really have a strong blues tradition here. There is a tradition in Oakland, California, but this tradition, you have the blues, but then you have people that came from that tradition that are playing what's considered avant-garde. It's like limitless, it's like the blues feeling, but limitless. And I think that's kind of a Midwest thing. I think that's sort of a Chicago thing, and all the stuff that came out of it, and from Sun Ra being here in the 50s and 60s, politically what was going on, culturally what was going on. There was just all this experimentation and expansion of musical vocabulary, but still with the feeling of the blues and that kind of, just that kind of complete unpretentiousness is kind of beautiful.
Is there like a non-music thing you like to do when you're in Chicago, if you have the time?
In Chicago in particular, I can't really think of anything other than just walking around. I like to do that anywhere, especially anywhere where there's water. So that would probably be it.
And then 2 more questions. Do you have a favorite AACM record?
I'd have to say, off the top of my head, the one that comes to mind first would be the Art Ensemble's record, Baptism. It was recorded in 1972 at the Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festival. And to me that, when I first heard that, it was on an Atlantic Records sampler. I had bought maybe an Eddie Harris record probably, or maybe Ray Charles, I can't remember. And then with it, you would get in those days a free sampler of all these other artists that were on Atlantic Records at the time. Yusef Lateef, David Fathead Newman, Roland Kirk. And then the last cut was from that live recording by the Art Ensemble, and it just sounded so strange with 2 bass saxophones. There was some crowd noise, they're starting the song, but then there's some silence and you can't really tell if it's a song. It was just so mysterious. And then it kicks in, they do the song Odwalla, which actually became the name of the juice company, Odwalla. And Roscoe also has a painting about Odwalla and a poem about this mythical figure. But that cut really drew me into the band. I think I heard that probably that same year, 1972. I was 12 years old. And then hearing that album that it came from, which I bought after that, probably with some money that I made from babysitting, or maybe from a gig, because I was starting to make some money from gigs in those days, at that time. But it was really like watching a great movie. It was one of those experiences where it's got a lot of the things you want in a 45-minute long experience. Like the pictures show the band with all these percussion instruments, all these instruments of all kinds, but the first 10 minutes is only drums, hand drums and drums. The next 10 minutes is some poetry and some little bells and bicorns, and then it's about a half hour before they even touch the quote-unquote real instruments, like the trumpet and saxophones. They don't even come in for like a half hour. And then still the band is really restrained, and they break down to just Roscoe and the bass player Malachi Favors, and they're playing something without any of the other members for like another, it seems like 10 minutes or so. And then some other stuff happens, and finally after about like 40 minutes, they break into this tune, One Daruth, which Joseph Jarman wrote in memory of John Coltrane. And the band just like takes a left turn, and all of a sudden it's like this thunderstorm of instruments, and you hear all the instruments kind of at once, and it's like raining instruments. And at that point, there's been so much tension because you know there's all these instruments on stage, and a lot of them haven't even been touched until that point, and then they just come pouring down, and it just kind of cleans the air. Like somebody I know that was at one of those concerts by them at that time said it was just like the sky cracked open or something. And then they end with this piece Odwalla. So to me that's just a really beautiful recorded experience of which has within it a lot of the things that the ACM stood for, like drama, tension, suspense, giving people what they don't expect, and then also this funkiness and poetry and other things in there too.
Cool, that's great. Could you just introduce yourself too?
Yeah, I should probably look at the camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just your name and what? Yeah, probably just the name, right?
Yeah, just your name.
Yeah, just the name. Hi, I'm so and so.
Okay. Hi, I'm Peter Apfelbaum. I play saxophone, piano, and drums.
Good, thanks.
Thanks for doing that, man.